I mean, look, how many times have you been at a speech, Sandro, where you've delivered your presentation, you've prepared, you've taken notes, you've interviewed beforehand, you've studied the industry, you've studied the organization, and you show up as you do the day before, you go to the breakfast, you have a chat with somebody, and you hear a little conversation around the mood of the company or some new initiative within the industry. And it sparks an idea, a slight little angle of something that you might exclude or include in the presentation you're about to give, I don't know, in a half an hour or 2 hours. And you're not going to get that from ChatGPT.
I agree. And actually, as you know, Seth, this is one of, I wouldn't say it's a USP. I don't lay claim to being the only speaker on the planet that gathers that information, that takes the time to have a call with a prospective client. But, I genuinely say to all meeting and event planners, even in the moment I walk up on a stage, if you have got a nugget of information, a current theme, or the CEO who speaks before me says something that is relevant to that audience, I'm weaving into my presentation, because that's another way of connecting with an audience and making it bespoke. Because after all, going back to the value price thing, again, as an event planner in the past, having been responsible for putting on a couple of huge MDRT events, the reality, unfortunately, as you know, Seth, is that too many speakers turn up. They have a canned, pre-prepared presentation. They stick the metaphorical check in their top pocket, and they're on the next flight out of there. And okay, if that's what people want to do, and that's what people want to pay for, absolutely no problem for me. But the way I see things, and I know the way you see things, is that it's a value proposition where that connection and that interaction and that bespoking is so important.
Well, look, we've both been in the business in different places in the business, you speaking and me booking speakers for 2 decades plus. And I will say that for the better, the tendency, the trend, and the transformation of higher demand, more exigent, if you will, on speakers, content, and how they present is perhaps a function of things being somewhat commoditized, the marketplace being saturated, and a sea of sameness. A lot of speakers, like you said, they're a one-trick pony. They have their one story. They have their slides. They take the check and walk on. Buyers are more savvy. Meeting professionals are more informed. And attendees, their values are demanding more. And you use the word bespoke. We could say tailor. We could say customized. I've even used the word today, artisanal. But whether it's a more structured question and answer session or a breakout that's built off of the larger concepts on a keynote, today's speakers are required to deliver a more tailored, more bespoke presentation that really dials in on what attendees need to take away immediately to make an impact that's going to last in their professional and personal life. I know you do that. I've seen it firsthand. We met virtually years ago over email through a fellow speaker, Allison, and I've watched your journey over time. And I've just seen the demand on speakers in a healthy way to up the level and up their game is a trend that isn't going away. Do you see it that way?
Yeah, I do. Absolutely. Again, I've worked with speakers. I am a speaker. But when I've been involved in these events, I don't, we go back many years during my MDRT journey, Seth, and I've heard, and this is, by the way, I am not knocking any other speaker. I'm not undermining anyone. I have hundreds of very good friends in the NSA and in the PSA in the UK, and they're all terrific. But for me personally, as an event planner, there is a big difference between a story and a message. And I've seen some amazing stories delivered, but as a member of the audience, I come away going, well, that was all great, but like, what was in it for me? How am I going to change as a result of what I've heard? Because otherwise, stories on their own kind of become a bit self-indulgent, really. And I try, if I can, I have a story, of course. I've plenty of stories because there's lots of failure along the way as well. But what I always try to do is underpin every story with a message, something that people can tangibly take away. And that for me is what I always try to bring to an event. It's the reason I guarantee outcomes, because I don't want people to be paying me to speak at an event or
Right.
do a breakout and
Right.
not take something really valuable away.
Right.
Otherwise, there is no value.
Right.
So it would be very disingenuous of me to talk about value if I didn't deliver it.
Yeah. We had this conversation in person about, those storytellers that are admiration junkies as opposed to those who are committed to delivering, whether it's one or more than one, multiple ideas, concepts, actionable things that people can utilize right away. Take it, make it their own, borrow all of it, a portion of it, but somehow deploy that in their life immediately so that they can expand on their production, their capacities, and optimize their efforts. So, I think you're preaching to the preacher at this point.
Well, I've found actually, if I look at my life from the time I was growing up, helping my family to entering financial services, and I think one of the things that I loved, that I began to very much love about the business, was that I was producing tangible outcomes for people. Because you create a financial plan, and they'd sadly pass away, or they retire, or they'd sell their business, and there was always something of value at the end of that process. And speaking was not something I decided I was going to do. I just achieved some success in my business, and people kept saying to me, you have to share this stuff with as many people as you can. And that's really how I got into it in about 1998 or so, and really started taking it quite seriously in about 2000, 2001. But everything, it kind of follows a theme. And that theme is very much about helping people. It's who I am fundamentally. And so I get, these lovely, unique opportunities to help audiences, help my clients, help my community. As you know, Seth, I raise a fairly large amount of money for charities. So, everything points in the same direction with me. It's about, great tangible outcomes.